Hello, everyone. I'm Jabbour. I am the founder and creator of the Girlfriends Club and the creator of Girlfriend2Girlfriend. Welcome this evening to this wonderful, oh my gosh, we have a jam-packed episode. It's jam-packed with one amazing individual. But before we get started, I just wanted to say that I had a wonderful Mother's Day weekend away with my two children. We went down to Puerto Rico, and it's just a big shout out to them for making me feel so special, so loved, and just really enjoying having adult grown-up kids, which is like changes the whole paradigm. We weren't really running to play in the sand as much as they were running to figure out when the bar opened, LOL. But it was really a relaxed time away, much needed respite from the grind of mommy life, work life, and real life. So I hope all of you leaders out there, the women leaders who are motivating all of us, inspiring all of us, giving us incredible potential to just thrive and strive. I thank you. I salute you. Mothers wear different hats, and I thank all of you for being on this planet. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to my new friend, although I have a feeling we're going to be very good friends. She goes by simply Leda, and I'm going to take a quote directly off of her Facebook page, and it says, "Are you living your truth, or are you living a truth that someone handed to you? To know where you are going, first you have to know yourself." Hello, Leda.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for that quote.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
I don't think you knew I was going to open with that.
No, I did not. I did
like
not.
Some surprises. I like to have some surprises in my programming. But that to me, you know, it is so powerful. And I think I'm going to read it again, if that's okay. So, are you living your truth, or are you living a truth that someone handed to you? To know where you are going, you first have to know yourself. I mean, powerful words, powerful. And really, when you dial it back a little bit and start dissecting, oh my God, the reality of that is very powerful and crazy, because I think we know ourselves, but do we?
Well, that's why that quote gives you pause. It really gives you pause to think, and because a lot of the things that we learn in early childhood from our nuclear family, and we take them for granted. It's our reality. It's what is, it's what we know. And until we start reaching that prepubescent, early puberty stage where we start to look at ourselves as individuals and start to identify ourselves as separate from our nuclear family, we don't really think about it. We just take everything as is. And that becomes our reality and our norm. So we adopt behaviors from our culture, our race, our ethnicity, but we never question them until we actually get older and something goes awry, something's not working for us. And then we say, well, wait a second. Do I really believe that? Is that mine? Is that what my family believes? Is that what my culture told me, or society at large? And then you start to question it. And questioning is the way to trace back to see where your belief system, where your patterns come from. And then you decide if you want to keep them or not based on if they still work for you, because we are ever evolving. We are ever changing.
A higher level of thinking. You know, when you,
well, I
you
think
take
we're just
pause,
not taught
like
to
you
think.
said, you know, and you
Yeah,
start to take it to the next level.
I think it's just because we're not taught to think that way. You know, we're not taught emotional development in school. It's really left up to the families and what you learn at home. You know, when you go into school and you're focused on your academics and your extracurricular activities and your sports and your social life, And this really, that concept of emotional health and emotional intelligence is not there. It's not a part of the curriculum. So we don't even think about it. I don't think it's even on the radar.
Right,
And
it's the
that's why,
nature versus nurture, right? That
right,
comes into play
right,
very much so here. So how do you
right.
dial it back? How do you go back and fix that?
Well, I
Or
think
how do
it
you
starts.
alter it? You can't really fix it, but you can alter your mindset.
Right. You can alter your mindset. And the way you do that, you have to start with awareness. And awareness is nothing more than life or the universe tapping you on the shoulder. So let's say you're in a situation where, something goes south, right? It could be a relationship, it could be the job you didn't get, a friendship, and you start to see some patterns over and over. It's the same storyline, different characters, but the pattern is the same. And then you start to, if you have enough awareness, you ask yourself without judgment, and this is the key, and you say, okay, why does this keep happening? That's always the first question, right? Why? Everyone wants to know, okay, I lost a relationship, my friendship went south, I lost the job, I didn't get to buy the house I wanted. And the first question is why? Why didn't that work out? And life, and the key is to know that life happens through you. It's not happening to you, right? You're not at the effect of life. You are actually co-creating your own life. So when you take that as a given, it gives you the power of response, right? And some sort of control where you can decide what direction your life is going to go in, right? Because we have a lot of programs that run subconsciously and we're not even aware of them. So we have some auto behaviors that we, default mechanisms that we go to. So you have to become aware of those. And the way you become aware of it mostly is when you get into some sort of trigger or crisis mode and you start asking the why question. The why question starts to help you unravel. And you say, okay, so why did this happen? How am I participating in this? What was my contribution to this outcome that
But
I
that's so
didn't work
much,
for me?
it just feels like it's a lot of work, so
It really,
you need to be in
it's
it for sorry.
no,
I
no,
I feel like you really just like you need to be fully committed to make this work and put the work in if you really want it to be beneficial on the other side. Because I think we all have so many learned behaviors and
mhm,
they're almost comfort zones, right?
right,
You know
right,
what, I'll just let it slide, or I'll just, it's I don't want to ruffle anyone's feathers. It makes it easy. But I know, recently as an adult, how important it is not to give up your power, and to
right,
keep your strength, right? Because you can't be rolled over you can't roll over all the time, and you can't
right. But
fall into that complacency.
well, emotional intelligence is just a learned behavior like anything. It's a learned skill like anything else. When you look at everything as a teachable moment, so you're in the office, there's a meeting, maybe someone's being passive aggressive, you're at home and maybe one of your family members is crotchety and is triggering you, whatever it is, if instead of reacting, which is what most people do, they immediately go into that reaction and say, oh, wait a second, blah, 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 why did you say this, that, and the other thing? And they start, overthinking, overanalyzing, and they're going in a direction that's not going to give them the answer. So if you just pause when you're being triggered or you're in a crisis or somebody's ruffling that feather of yours and you say, okay, you know what? I'm not going to react. I'm going to choose to act instead. So I'm going to sit down and I'm going to say to myself, what is this moment trying to teach me? So a lot of times it's usually about the other person more than it's about you. It could be partially about you, but this is where you just spend a few minutes and you just think about what the interaction was, what the outcome was. Have you had other people respond to you that way? And if they did, then maybe that'll give you a little bit of a clue that you're engaging in a behavior that you've disowned. You're not aware of it. So you need to just give it a little attention so then you can make the shift. It's just about learning the skill. And the skill is learning to ask the question. and really viewing things as a teachable moment, as opposed to going into criticism, judgment, downward spiraling, resentment,
But
anger, et
that's
cetera, et
so
cetera.
easy to do. That's so
Right.
easy to do, right? I mean,
Well, that's the default, because that's the default
right.
behavior. That's
Mhm.
the reaction.
Right.
But the key is, how about we choose how to respond? We take that 10-second pause and say, because when you react, it's instantaneous. It's like when you're listening to someone, you're already deciding how to respond to them before they've even finished talking most of the time. So if you take that 10 seconds to just pause, zip the mouth, don't say anything, and then you're in a better place to choose your response. And that's where your power lies, always in the response that you choose to give.
I always find that it's very, for me, powerful that I sit there and listen.
Yes.
Not everybody
Yes.
can listen. People don't, to be a good listener, and a lot
Right.
of times, like you're saying, with the pausing, you need to take it in before, we tend to be reactionary, shoot off our mouths, shoot off our mouths. No, no,
Right.
no, 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 no.
Right.
Keep me in the game, keep me in the game. But sometimes it's like, I just sit back and I'm like, I hear you.
Yeah. You're active listening.
It's almost disarming to the other person. And then they realize it's very respectful
Right.
because here's the platform. You have something to say. And, we all live in reactionary environments with,
Right.
I mean, come on, all day. You're
I know.
making decisions, you're reacting, you're on the move. And not everybody takes the time to be still or to listen, or as you say, to pause. And I think that's very important advice,
Right.
because it also gives you that moment to really freshen up and be like, okay, I'm on my game. I know what I'm going to say instead of this, right?
Well, I think the reason, going back to what you said about everybody being reaction and you're always in reaction, is, everybody is in reaction because everybody thinks that everything is about them.
Oh, 100%. Oh, please.
When you stop thinking that everything is about you stop reacting.
You
It's
also can breathe because you're so much lighter. It's like,
right,
I can't
right,
control this.
right, right. We actually have very little control, you
Well,
know.
we have no control. I mean, honestly, come on.
Well, the only control, I say little, because the only control you have is over yourself, your behavior, your response, your emotions, your
right.
boundaries, your intentions.
Yes,
That's what you have control over.
that's
No,
right.
no other situation and no one else.
And you can't make something happen as much as
No.
you want. I'm sorry, girl. It's just not
Yeah.
happening that way. I mean, but let's be real. So we're both single mothers.
Right.
And wearing the pants, the dress, the everything, whatever you want to call it, it's not easy.
No, it's not.
And the
That's true.
struggle is real. And
It is.
so I learned how to pause along the way.
Yeah.
And
And I bet you learned, like I did, how to shift on a dime.
yep.
When the situation changes, you're just like, okay, we're shifting gears. That's what we're doing. And
Mhm.
there we go.
I'll never
And
forget
you
the
learn,
time. Go ahead.
no, you learn how to let things go. You
Well, there you
learn
go.
how to pick and choose your battles. You learn how to, not sweat the small stuff. And you learn what the small stuff is.
Oh my gosh. And I reflect back on it thinking, OMG, what I thought was catastrophic was really. I remember my kids, so they're 18 months apart. And I just they were little and it was the summer and it was hot and they both wanted me. Hold me, hold me. And that's when I decided that they could each have a leg. I'm like, here, put your head on my leg. Well, for whatever reason, that like stopped World War III
Mm-hmm.
forever. It was always like that's where they would go while they were toddlers. The smallest gesture was
Right.
comforting. And yet,
Right.
we think that we have to buy the MacBook, but the smallest gesture. And that's something else that I that I kind of wanted to talk about. Our gestures, our loving gestures, our gestures of
Mhm.
kindness, but just not to each other, but to ourselves.
Right. And that's what this was going to be all about, that internal self-care, because that, the word self-care has become such a buzzword. And
Yes.
when you think self-care, people think hair and nails and facials and massages, which is all important, right?
Yes.
Everything has its place. But real happiness comes from within. So the self-care has to come from within as well, right? And internal happiness looks like inner peace. It looks like self-acceptance, and
Stop
that,
right there. Stop with the self-acceptance right there. I think that's something that everyone has a hard time with,
right,
accepting,
right.
and being and loving, and it's okay. It's okay. Accept who you are. It's so freeing.
Yeah. But to self-accept is very, very difficult. And it touches on one of the factors we were going to talk about. And we could do this in any order, but
Go for it, girl.
self-acceptance, self-acceptance really starts with forgiveness. And I'm not talking about forgiveness of the other, right? I'm talking about self-forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
So the question becomes, are you forgiving yourself for everything you ever judged yourself for? Are you forgiving yourself for putting up with things you didn't deserve? And these questions lead you to really reflect. And this is a great journal exercise, because self-forgiveness is the most difficult and the most challenging thing someone can do, because we harbor shame and guilt on a subconscious level. And it's running just underneath the surface, and we're not even aware of it. And until you really forgive yourself, you don't accept yourself.
It's so
They go
true,
hand
Leda.
in hand.
It's so true. And I just recently said, you know what? I I'm not a bad person. I just made bad choices.
Right. And there's a
And
difference.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
forget you gotta forgive yourself. Heck, we're just human and we're learning. But in order to grow, you need to forgive.
Yes. Yes. And you need to forgive, because when you harbor resentment or anger or any kind of vindictiveness, whatever it is, it's like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. But the one who dies is you. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
slow internal death.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be very mindful of that. Forgiveness is a gift that we give ourselves. It really is.
Oh,
Truly, truly,
it's wings.
truly. It's
It's
wings.
freedom. It's freedom.
Yes.
I
And I
encourage
actually,
everyone to
yeah,
try it because it's like amazing. The feeling is it's
it's
just euphoric.
liberation.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
euphoric. Once you realize it's okay, and don't wait until you're an old lady like me. Do it way beforehand because it really is life changing.
Yeah.
And I say to my kids all the time, like,
Yeah.
okay, forgive yourself and move on. You won't do
Right.
it again, trust. But
Right.
look in the mirror,
Right.
forgive yourself.
You
Kiss
know,
your
there are a
heart.
couple of there are a couple of key factors I know we wanted to touch on tonight.
Mhm.
And there's so much to say. And I really I could sit here and talk to you for like 2 hours
I
and to the
know.
community. But so I know we have to keep it to a nutshell, but there are a couple of things I wanted to touch on and just kind of put out some questions to give people thought, right? And so that inner self-care and getting to that place of self-acceptance, there's certain steps you can take to get there. And the first one is boundaries. What are your boundaries? Do you have any? Ask yourself, do you have any? And if you are, can you identify what they are? And the way that you can help yourself to identify what they are is, and if they're serving you, is, look at yourself. Are you a people pleaser? Are you a shapeshifter? Are you a chameleon? Are you constantly morphing yourself to please somebody else, to be accepted, to be loved? So therefore you violate boundaries that you normally wouldn't violate. Are you learning to say no to things that don't serve you? And learning to say no and being okay with saying no is huge. Because if you're going to say no, and then you're going to have the guilt,
What's
you're
the
not doing
point?
anything.
No.
Right. So boundaries
Gotta
is
clear that energy. Clear that
yeah.
energy.
So because when you set those boundaries, you know, it's a sign that you're respecting yourself. It's a sign of loving myself and taking care of myself. And each step that you take will help you build onto the previous step, right? And so it's a process, and that it'll help you get to that forgiveness and self-acceptance. So another really big thing is time management. So I had a mentor many years ago who said to me, "Are you redeeming your time?" And I was like, wow, what is she talking about? And this was like a few decades ago. I was like, redeeming my time. What does that mean? You know, I was like,
What
I don't
does
know.
it mean?
I
No.
have no idea, you know.
Hold on.
And
What does that mean?
and she said, your inner circle should only include those who understand your destiny and are 100% for you. And I put that on a Post-it, and I still have it on my wall in my office because it serves as a reminder to me, you know. And I thought, wow, the statement blew me away. And I thought to myself, okay, now I think I get it. How am I redeeming my time? Am I giving it away? Am I watching endless, you know, Netflix series? Am I doing mindless shopping? Am I scrolling on social media that sucks us into that vortex? And so we wake up and it's 2 hours later and we're like, oh my God, I didn't do anything. I'm still on, you know, my phone.
Yeah.
You know, are we giving our time away? Or are we using it in ways that bring us joy and pleasure and inner happiness? You know, so be mindful. You know, are you redeeming your time? That's a boundary.
Huge.
Right?
Huge.
Huge.
Huge. I mean, I love that.
Yes.
How are you redeeming your time? Wow. Powerful.
Yeah. And that's a big one today because there's so many distractions. Society is geared to distract us with one thing or another. There's so much to follow and keep up with, that how much time do we really have to do the things that we really want to do? I can't tell you how many people say to me, well, they're just not enough hours in the day. And my answer is, yes, there is. Are you redeeming your time? Because it's learning to say no to the
Oh
things
my
that
God, I'm
don't
going to
serve you.
bring that to the office tomorrow.
So another one is intention. Are you setting a daily intention? So, you know, when you're waking up in the morning and it's that you're not fully awake, you know, you're sort of semi-conscious, you're still lying in bed. And that moment, you know what moment I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I know that moment.
Okay, so that moment is that moment where you get your most inspired ideas and all your creative insights, because that's the moment before your monkey mind is into gear saying, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to get up, I got to do that, whatever's going on in your day. And that's the moment you need to set your intention for the day. And the intention should always be something like, I'm going to do one kind thing for myself today. I'm not going to judge myself today.
Good luck.
I'm not, yeah, but you have to set an intention that's going to stretch you out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you want to create a new habit. And that's the moment to set it. And when you set it, it sets the tone for the day. Because what happens is when you don't set an intention, you can have a conversation with someone who's having a bad day or is having some issues, and they just kind of want to tell you about it. And before you know it, you walk away, and an hour later, you're like, God, why am I in such a bad mood? Why am I? Because you just absorbed all that person's energy and whatever they were telling you, not in a bad way, even if you're trying to be helpful. And now your intention has gotten cluttered, if you had one at all. Right. But when you have that intention, you say, okay, I can practice some non-attachment. I can help you and listen to you, but I don't have to absorb all of that negativity, if that's what it is, or that energy, whatever that is.
That's a major boundary. Major
boundary. Another one I love is your creative self, your artistic expression. Right? So are you expressing it? That's art, music, cooking, gardening, dancing, you know, anything artistic. It could be craft making, needle pointing. It doesn't even matter what it is. Are you expressing your creative self? Because when you express your creative, that's your soul's expression. When you
Yes.
are in that mode, your mind is turned off. It's still. You're thinking about nothing at all. And you're just allowing yourself to be, right? And that's a form of self-care. You need that. That's how you disconnect and you allow your soul to come through. And that's
So,
really important.
so you mentioned dancing, and I have to say the reason why Leda and I know each other is through a mutual friend. And the mutual friend owns a dance studio. And he had cast me in The Nutcracker, and I was Clara's mother. Now, I, would leave work frantically because I got to put on my hoop dress. Do you know that those practices were the best 2 hours of my life?
Yeah, I
I
believe
mean,
it because I
just
did his community theater
okay. So just
through
being
one
with
of
the
his
little,
schools and I loved it.
just being with the little kids, and
Mhm.
just I was nobody to them except I was Clara's mother. And that was it. It was wonderful. So it's healing.
Yes,
It's
yes.
calming,
It's
it's
very
healing.
healing.
And like for me, it was giving back, giving time, my
Mhm.
time, and having that moment. And who knew I could ballroom dance? I didn't know. I fit the dress. That's what he said. That's why I got the role. But at the end of the day, I'm making very lighthearted fun of this. I find it to be so true. I come home every evening. I leave work alley in the garage. I come in the house. I'm mom. I love to cook. And
Mhm.
that if you're saying that that's an expression of art, I got this one going because I love it. It's
Yeah,
very
yeah. But it's
soothing.
really important because you get into a zone that allows you to disconnect from the daily
Yes,
life, the
the grind.
daily
Mhm,
running of life, whatever
mhm.
that looks like for you, right? And that's it's important, and it's important to allow your soul to come to the forefront at some
So
point.
true. I love that. Let your
Yeah,
soul come to the forefront.
yeah.
That
And
might be another
that's what
quote for you,
artistic
girl. That's a good quote.
And that's what artistic expression is, right? It allows your soul to come to the forefront. So it's so important to give yourself those moments for your creative self, for the expression of the creative self,
And
you
it's a
know?
release. It's a release. It
Yes,
just
it's an
makes you feel
emotional
good.
release.
It
Hmm.
makes you feel good, and like yeah, there's just something amazing about it. And also, at the end of the day, you know, what's the word? It gives you strength
Yeah.
in another direction. It's another one of your
Well, it
strengths.
balances out. It gives you balance. And I always say to people, there are a lot of people who are very focused on their career or their family or whatever, is important to them. And I always say it's really important to keep balance.
Yes.
Balance is important. We're a trilogy of being. We're mind, body, spirit. So you have to keep that balance. And each part of yourself needs to be nourished. That's what well-being is. You can't focus just on the body and completely ignore, your spiritual and your emotional and your mental self, because they
What a
need to be
great
integrated.
what a great way to end this segment. You're gonna have to come back.
Yes, I would love to. Oh my God, you're gonna get sick of wearing me.
Well,
She's like, oh my
don't
gosh,
worry
she's at it
because
again.
I know the list is long and detailed. We barely scratched the surface,
I know.
but thank you so much. And what a great segment right after Mother's Day. And for all the women out there, all the girlfriends, take the time, put some work in on yourself. We spend so much time taking care of everyone else,
Right,
but if we don't take care of number one, there's no one that's going to take care of us. So,
right.
Leda, thank you for joining us. You can find
Thank you
Leda
for
at
having me so much.
you can find her at Simply Leda on Facebook and Instagram, and Leda at simplyleda.com.
Right,
Yes,
simplyleda.com. Yep,
simplyleda.com.
perfect.
All right, everyone. I'll see you next week. Dr. Reiger's back next week. Ooh, another motivational conversation about beauty, health, and all good things sparkling. So you take care, and I'll see you all next week. Mwah. Take care. Bye.